Hey, it's Jordan with Status Quo. Tulsi Gabbard, who in 2021 I predicted would soon have a Fox News show. This is my tweet. I will not be watching Tulsi Gabbard's inevitable Fox News show. Well, yesterday she was on Fox News's The Five, which is a popular show with mostly conservative panelists pushing propaganda. Now, I'm not against progressives going on Fox if you're actually going to be a progressive and fight back against Fox's propaganda. Tulsi sitting on the panel, I guess, was supposed to be kind of the leftists against the conservatives. Shockingly, there wasn't a lot of leftism expressed. Let's take a look at the first clip, which was Fox teeing Tulsi up to give her left opinion as far as the midterm elections coming up in November.
There's a piece in the Washington Post today, and I can't remember who wrote it, Matthew somebody, Tulsi, that says that maybe losing the midterms would not be a terrible thing for the Democrats. I mean, what do you think of
Yeah, I think that there are serious lessons that need to be learned here, because more than one woke policy or another right now, I think the bigger thing that we've got to look to is this governing attitude that is coming from the Democratic Party, where essentially they see themselves as the kings or the rulers and we are their subjects, and we exist to serve them and their interests rather than what it should be, which is the other way around. And we see this in so many different ways where they're saying, hey, we're going to tell you what you can say and what you can't say. We're going to tell you what is information, what is misinformation, what is true and what is false. And if you don't fall in line, we're just going to censor you or silence you or ostracize you, push you off to the side. And I think just across the board, you know, we're sick and tired of being treated like we're stupid or children or idiots and just being so condescended to. And I hope for the country's sake that this shifts and that we have leaders in our government who actually exist for the purpose of serving the people rather than the other way around.
Sounds good, doesn't it? We're sick and tired of being condescended to, and they only care about themselves and dictate to us. Listen, not a big fan of the Democratic Party. People who watch this channel knows. I think the Democratic Party is going to be wiped out in November. But Tulsi said a whole lot of nothing there, and kind of in that, by the way, she's the left person on the panel, but somehow acts like the Republican Party then would be the party of the people, that the Republican Party doesn't censor, that the Republican Party really just wants an open dialogue. This is my issue with so-called leftists. They rightly go after the Democratic Party for its real pattern and love of censoring, of using big tech to crush political opponents and dissent, but then are crickets on the Republican Party. Maybe because, I don't know, is Tulsi Gabbard angling maybe to be a running mate to Ron DeSantis if he wins the nomination? I don't know. But it's interesting that Tulsi left out in her diatribe about censorship and everything else the governor of the third largest state in America, Ron DeSantis, who might win the Republican nomination if a few chips fall his way, who just in recent weeks threatened the Special Olympics. Yes, threatened the Special Olympics with pulling funding if they don't get rid of their vaccine mandate. Which the Special Olympics folded and got rid of their vaccine mandate. Whatever you think of vaccine mandates, here is the Special Olympics' actual reason for instituting a special vaccine mandate. 3 years later, the Special Olympics, which would appear to be entirely apolitical, is making headlines again, not because a Republican wants to cut its funding, but because a Republican threatened to impose harsh fines on the organization. Florida threatened to fine Special Olympics International $27.5 million for requiring 5,000 participants at the USA Games in Orlando to be vaccinated against COVID, prompting the organization to drop the mandate. Quote, there needs to be a choice in this regard, Governor DeSantis said. So let me get this straight. Florida's Republican governor and his administration threatened the Special Olympics in an election year because the organization wanted to help protect athletes with intellectual disabilities from a dangerous contagion during a pandemic. Now, whatever you think of vaccine mandates, the Special Olympics and these athletes are specifically more susceptible to COVID-19. A study last year that surveyed almost 65 million patients across 547 healthcare organizations revealed that having an intellectual disability, quote, was the strongest independent risk factor for presenting with a COVID-19 diagnosis and the strongest independent risk factor other than the age for COVID-19 mortality. Another study in the United Kingdom found that if infected, people with Down syndromes are five times more likely to be hospitalized and 10 times more likely to die of COVID-19 than the general population. A vaccine mandate for Special Olympics athletes, Garcia added, is a way of keeping the athletes the Special Olympics serves alive. But because the Special Olympics didn't have the preferred political viewpoint of the base that Ron DeSantis is trying to get into a frenzy so that he could run for president and win, he threatened massive fines, so the Special Olympics folded. Let's get into more of Ron DeSantis' love for free speech. The Tampa Bay Rays baseball team, which, you know, popular team in the Tampa area. I went to college in Tampa and went to the stadium a few times. They, like other sports teams, including the Yankees, some basketball teams, tweeted out facts about gun death in America. What did Ron DeSantis do in response to the Tampa Bay Rays putting out facts about gun control? He threatened to pull their subsidies from the governor in Florida for the crime of putting out tweets on gun control. Let's take a look.
Companies are free to engage or not engage with whatever discourse they want, but clearly it's inappropriate to be doing tax dollars for professional sports stadium. It's also inappropriate to subsidize political activism of a private corporation. So I think, you know, either way, it's not appropriate. But we were not in a situation where use of tax dollars for a professional stadium would have been a prudent use.
Let's get this straight, because Tulsi Gabbard only wants to talk about the Democrats attacking free speech. He was perfectly fine giving taxpayer money to the Tampa Bay Rays, who, by the way, is owned by a Goldman Sachs alumni, was perfectly fine doing that if they just shut up about guns. But when the baseball team tweeted about gun control, we're taking your taxpayer money because it's inappropriate for the government and the taxpayers to pay for your training facility. You see how that works? God, I love these leftists who are so consistent across the board, will attack Democrats and Republicans for attack on free speech. But moving on, Ron DeSantis also recently, which I haven't heard the free speech absolutist crowd even mention, they kind of are silent about DeSantis literally banning protests outside residences in Florida. Florida Governor Ron DeSantis signed a bill Monday that makes it illegal to protest or picket outside a person's home and gives police the authority to arrest violators who don't disperse after a warning. Quote, sending unruly mobs to private residences like we have seen with the angry crowds in front of the homes of Supreme Court justices is inappropriate. Angry mobs. Sounds kind of similar to the language the North Dakota governor and the police that were protecting an oil company at Standing Rock were using about indigenous people, those angry mobs who were silently praying, dancing and banging on drums against a toxic pipeline that was going to contaminate their water and desecrate their land and where their ancestors are buried. But very interesting, because the whole residential neighborhoods thing is really just, we don't want protesters outside politicians and judges' homes in the state of Florida, even though the protests that DeSantis was pointing to in D.C. outside justices' homes were very peaceful. There was no violence. They were not on the actual property of those Supreme Court justices. So I just find it very interesting that Tulsi Gabbard in the leftist seat on the Fox News panel, only focused on the Democratic censorship and attacks on free speech. I guess, you know, by her silence on the Republican attacks on free speech, no issue. But by the way, Ron DeSantis also has put out basically a gag order in Florida, which I went to cover, on teachers or students talking about their same-sex families. The Don't Say Gay bill, which I actually read, I'm pretty sure Tulsi Gabbard didn't, basically outlaws teachers or students talking about anything they've done with their family, even acknowledging, if you're a student, that you have two daddies or two mommies. For Tulsi Gabbard, that bill actually did not go far enough. That was her complaint on the, quote, parental rights bill. Former U.S. Congressman Tulsi Gabbard posted a video message to social media saying the Florida Don't Say Gay bill, signed into law by Republican Governor Ron DeSantis last month, doesn't go far enough in censoring the discussion. Yes, censoring the discussion of sexuality and gender. But as I read the legislation, I got to tell you, I was shocked to learn that it was only to protect kids from kindergarten till third grade. Third grade? What about 12th grade? Well, Tulsi, this is how I know you didn't actually read the bill, even though you claimed you read the bill. It actually does not stop at third grade. There is language and provisions in there that are vague as hell and open up this law to go all the way through 12th grade in high school, whatever is deemed age inappropriate or deemed age appropriate. So this bill goes way past third grade. So very interesting that Tulsi Gabbard is a free speech absolutist, but apparently not for LGBTQ teachers or students in Florida. Let's move on to the next part of Tulsi Gabbard's quote unquote leftist appearance on the Fox panel. This was her talking about free speech absolutist and hero Elon Musk.
Tulsi, isn't he doing what anybody should do when they're buying something? Check under the hood.
Absolutely.
I mean, that's kind of what he's doing.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I think that all the attention is being focused on this because it's Elon Musk and also because of why he's doing this, right? As a quote unquote free speech absolutist, I think people recognize how much it's needed, how dangerous it is that we have people in our government working with big tech and many in the mainstream media to essentially advance like a specific narrative. It's a de facto propaganda department. And if you are not in line, then you will be censored. And I saw this in my presidential campaign. Google suspended our ads account on the first debate. I was the most searched candidate. They suspended the account right when people were looking for me most. Just last month, Instagram shadow banned me. If you searched for Tulsi Gabbard, you wouldn't find my name anywhere. There's so many different examples of this. And the real danger is it is a threat to our marketplace of ideas and our democracy. And so I hope he looks under the hood. I hope he continues. Twitter will be one example, but obviously it's a larger issue, and hopefully others will kind of take heed.
That was interesting, and I agree with a lot of what she said. She's totally accurate that she was the most searched candidate in that first debate, and Google basically shut down the search traffic for her, which is censorship, which whether you like Tulsi or not, we should all be against. If they would not have done that, maybe her fortune would have been different. Maybe more people would have been open to her message, her anti-war message, among other things. So she did get an unfair shake. She also, in my view, was there was a lot of propaganda against her from the media. So she did not get a complete fair shake. No doubt about it. She's being truthful about that. But again, either she's not reading or she's intentionally just sugarcoating facts, just like she did on the terms of censorship, that it's only the Democrats doing, but not the Republicans. So Elon Musk, she's basically going along with this narrative that Elon Musk is some free speech hero. Yeah, about that. Here's what a free speech hero Elon Musk is. This is from the Daily Beast. Invoices and documents reviewed by CNBC indicate that Tesla paid a PR firm to monitor an employee Facebook group and general social media activity in 2017 and 2018, with focused research conducted on labor organizers. In 2017 and 2018, some Tesla employees tried to form a union at a factory in Fremont, California. The company and founder, Elon Musk, have bumped up against union advocates for years. According to documents about MWWPR's work, the firm paid particular attention to conversations about unfair labor practices and a sexual harassment lawsuit. 3 people who worked at the Fremont factory in 2018 told CNBC that colleagues advised them not to connect with bosses on social media or join online groups unless they knew every member. 2 current Tesla employees told the outlet that they suspect the company still monitors their social media posts. CNBC obtained copies of Tesla's current communications policy, which says managers should not look at employees' online presences unless there's an explicit business-related reason to do so. So, interestingly, I guess Elon Musk is for free speech for, I guess, Twitter users or people whose views he agrees with, but not his employees. Or any employees that are agitating for a labor union. But it doesn't just stop at his employees that Tulsi Gabbard apparently left out there. He's also not a huge fan on the free press, which is kind of contradictory to his whole, diatribe on why he wants to buy Twitter, even though he's now backing out of that. Let's take a look at this. Musk has repeatedly sought control over what journalists, bloggers, analysts, and other researchers say about his businesses, their products, and himself. Memorably, the Tesla CEO berated and cut off an analyst on an earnings call in 2018, quote, "Excuse me, next, boring, bonehead questions are not cool," the CEO said after a question about his company's capital requirements. The automaker had just posted its worst quarterly loss in history. Musk later apologized for this and now sometimes skips speaking on Tesla's earning calls. Musk and Tesla have also asked reporters to sign NDAs or show story drafts to the company to obtain approvals before publishing. Let that sink in. Musk and Tesla have asked reporters to sign non-disclosure agreements or show them story drafts to the company to obtain approvals before publishing. Man, that's a hell of a free speech position. He has brazenly called on followers to edit his biography on Wikipedia. "Just looked at my wiki for first time in years. It's insane," Musk tweeted. "By the way, can someone please delete investor? I do basically zero investing." His legions of followers obliged. So here's the problem. There's a grain of this is the problem with a lot of so-called leftists these days. There's a lot of truth on some of the things they're saying, but if the truth pie is 8 slices, they're only really feeding you 4 slices of the pie and kind of pretending there's not 4 slices left, which is Elon Musk is not a free speech absolutist. He is a pretty much your dime a dozen corporatist who exploited subsidies from the federal government to become the richest person on earth. He also is not a fan of labor or his workers having any free speech or rights. He's also tried to cover up really horrible safety conditions in his Tesla warehouses. And he's only for free speech if it's for his own grandiose vision of himself buying Twitter. He doesn't care about free speech for his workers. He doesn't care about free speech or freedom of the press for the press. Just like Tulsi Gabbard is very, very against Democratic censorship, but seemingly asleep at the switch on Republicans censoring, particularly Republicans that might be president. I guess she's quiet because, wink, wink, she might want to be his running mate. So Tulsi Gabbard, her latest audition for her own Fox News show would not shock me if you see her on Fox News more, would not shock me if inevitably she gets her own show or special gig on Fox. Thanks for watching, and make sure to tune in to Status Quo's daily live stream Monday through Thursday at 5 o'clock Eastern Time and Fridays at 4 o'clock Eastern Time.